Tonight, on the stretch run, we'll review Raja Babu's smashing victory on the opening day of the Whitsun meeting, as well as Unbridled's upset win over Summer Squall in the 116th Kentucky Derby.
The 116th run for the Roses goes to Unbridled with jockey Craig Perez, winning it by 4 lengths.
Attorney Wendell Kangaloo joins us for part 2 of our mini-series on partnerships.
I think it's only a matter of time before the idea hits here and we have the incorporated association, owning horses.
Juan Mosca is our guest on our paddock profile.
Trainers don't get the respect that they deserve in Trinidad and Tobago.
And we'll pay a visit to a famous farm and have a look at the possible champions of tomorrow. All that and more on the stretch run. Welcome to program number 148. Since we started our stretch run series back in April of '87, we thank you for your continued support. Tonight, first off, we look at last Saturday's feature race for the 3-year-olds going over 1350 meters. This was action, of course, on the opening day of the Trinidad Race Club Whitsun card, and the 3-year-olds went over the distance. We had Raja Babu and Flo Joe, second and third respectively in the Easter Guineas, matching strides with some improving horses like Voyager, Cyclops, Sands of Time, and it turned out to be quite an interesting race. Don't Cry For Me was also there. At the start, well, Flo Joe was a bit tardy, losing a couple of lengths and never really got into the act. Cyclops and Don't Cry For Me made it an honest pace. But Raja Babu was always going well and confirmed his good early season form to run out a decisive winner. This was his third start this year and his 13th overall for this busy colt, winning 3, finishing second 3 times and third also 3 times, unplaced twice last year by Spindle Top out of the Timur mare Tamura. It was a good victory for Raja Babu, which puts him at the top of the standings for the locally bred 3-year-olds. Voyager was 14.5 lengths back in 5th and is much better than that run. The same can be said of Flo Joe, so probably the best thing would be to forget about the performances of Flo Joe and Voyager when you come to analyze their chances next time out. Don't Cry For Me, as we indicated last week on our program, will need a cut in the going to show his best form. While the one-eyed giant Cyclops, he ran a corker, very good effort in second and confirmed his good form at the Easter meeting when he showed up quite well, finishing second to Voyager. So second to Raja Babu made his trainer, Glenn Emmanuel, quite pleased.
Right now, we'll have to say Raja Babu is the best 3-year-old in the island at the present time. Yeah. Because as you know, Longchamp, he has been sidelined by injury and we don't know if he'll ever race again.
Yeah. But Cyclops has really come on in the last couple of months, especially at Calypso. We saw that development.
Well, he has. Mr. Belgrave and myself, we planned it this way, that Cyclops being a big horse, and also he came to the paddock quite late as a 2-year-old. We decided that we would take it easy with him, space his races until he develops, physically as well as mentally, because a horse has to develop mentally as well, So this is what we have been doing, and it seems to have been paying off.
Yes. But it's good to have a patient owner, and you've got a pretty patient one, Mr. Clive Belgrave. Cyclops is yes, an interesting story about Cyclops concerns his left eye.
Yes, when he was a foal, he got his left eye damaged in the pasture, and that is why they gave him the name Cyclops. The one-eyed giant. And really, physically, he is a giant. He's quite a big horse. But it doesn't bother him, and I don't really think it's a physical handicap. It really doesn't bother him because he doesn't shy from horses and so on.
Well, he shows his ability, and that the one eye doesn't stop him at all.
No, not at all. He's a fellow with a lot of speed, and I think you have to ride him straight out in front. Because that's his game.
Of course, his interesting story doesn't only pertain to his eye. I understand it was a difficult birth a couple of years ago.
He was, but then again, Mr. Belgrave has a top-notch man there and a chap called Lawrence. Lawrence James, I think is his surname. And apparently, in delivery, he was crossed, something like that. And it took Lawrence over 2 hours to get him out. Yeah. So he almost lost him and the dam. Finally, though, they lost the dam. She finally died. So Cyclops is the only foal from her.
Yeah.
It's a pity, though, that they never got even a filly, you know, to carry on her line, because she was a well-bred horse. His dam, you know.
Well, Glenn, it's good to see you back in racing after an absence of some 8 years since the days of Droomfada. You're now back and you're stabled here in Arima. What about your present stable, the size of it?
Well, I have 5 horses. Again, my main owner is Clive Belgrave. I have 4 for him, and hopefully I'll get a few more because he has 10 two-year-olds on the farm. So I'm hoping to get some of those. And I have the Lily Smalls 2-year-old, which I'm
Particularly fond of, for
That's
a lot of
right.
reasons.
That's right. Well, Lily Smalls, as you know, I brought her down from England, and she was a very good horse, and I know her, you know, and so I know what to expect from her daughter. Late maturing, she will definitely be late maturing if she has taken after her dam. As you know, Lily Smalls was a late maturing horse, but the wonderful thing about her, she kept maturing every year. Every year she was a better horse, better horse, better horse. So I expect that from her foal.
Yes. What about the lads you've got working with you,
Well,
the grooms?
I have Lap, who is my right hand, and I have Leonard. I'll tell you, in this game, you need experienced grooms, you see? And they are really the backbone of the game. Talking about that, I like to put a little plug for them. Grooms, they get 2.5%.
Of the winning prize.
Right, 2.5% of the winning stakes. And I find that's a little small. These fellas are with the horses 7 days a week. I mean, you have trainers, the majority of trainers, they have a rest day. And some of them don't even come on the rest day. But a groom has to be there 7 days a week. So 2.5% of the stake money is a bit small. I would like to see that doubled. I really would like to see the grooms get 5%. Give the guys an incentive, you know. Now, I think it's like this. Trainers 10%, full-fledged jockeys 10%, grooms 2.5%. So that's a wrong figure, 22.5. I think, you know, it should be 25% taken out of the stakes. The owner gets 75%, 10% for the trainer, 10% for the full-fledged jockey, and 5% for the groom.
Yeah.
I mean, let's treat them as people, man.
Yeah.
Because they are people. And as I said, they are the backbone of a good horse is a good groom. Believe what I tell you.
Yeah. They spend so much time every day of the week.
Oh,
And then
definitely.
what does a groom make a week on an average?
Well, my grooms are paid 100 per horse. Like Lap is mining 3 horses, so he gets 300 a week. Leonard, he sees about 2, he gets 200 a week. Now, they are well paid. I don't want to call names, but I know some stables, particularly in Port of Spain. The more horses you have, the less pay you get. When I say so, it works out to about $75 per horse if you have like 2 and over or 3 and over. That is
So you
bad.
don't get the 100 a horse?
No, but I pay 100 per horse. So, I mean, I try to help them,
Yeah.
you know.
Because obviously if you look after 3 horses, you're going to be leaving the track a lot later every day.
Definitely. I mean, what's the time now? And Lab still has 1 more horse to work, you see. So I really would like to see the authorities think seriously about increasing these guys' percentage money. 2.5 is really small. It's really small. And I'd like to see them get 5. I really would.
Moving from Glenn Emanuel's barn, we go across the yard to join Juan Moscow, who's got a sizable string out at Santa Rosa Park, and this year has been quite a good year for him. At the 2 meetings so far, he's saddled 11 winners down south, second only to champion trader Joe Hadid, who had 12 wins, Moscow 11 and Colt Durant 10. So good going by the Arima-based trader, and he is our guest in our paddock profile tonight on the Stretch Run.
Well, the stable right now, most of the horses, we have about, I would say, nearly anything like about in the vicinity of about 10 horses down in G class. And they come into hand and they're not doing too bad. Some of them are demoted down into that class. Horses like Sky Angel, always knocking on the door. You have Clong Dancer. She ran 2 good races, but she's a bit on the coward side. So when she went down into G class, she had her own thing there. Then you had Captain Jack. He's not really a G class horse, but when he came up to Arima, he was in a bad way.
Yeah.
So it was just a matter of time before he dominated the class. You see? Then we have a horse like Sweet for Days. I think we now discovered that he's a better horse over the distance. But what happened, he's a horse with leg problems, so we didn't want to send him too far, you see. So last week we took a chance and sent him over a mile for the first time. And when you're ready, I was speaking to the man who bred him, Diffental, and he explained to me that the horse is bred to get 9 furlongs. So I think that is why, if you noticed, last week we didn't enter him. We're saving him for the mile race this week, you see.
Yeah.
So then again you have that thing there again. What is happening to you find again to people are not buying horses as before. Because if you check, I have about 36 horses in training, and we only have about, I would say about 6 or 7 of them above E class. Then again too, I have about 10 3-year-olds. That out of the 10 of them, 7 of them haven't even seen the racetrack as yet. They came into training very late last year, you see. So then again now you're left with the balance of them in G class horses.
Are you training for any syndicates or partnerships right now?
I can't really say so. I have 1 or 2 owners that have 4 or 5 horses, like a fella like Abdul Karim. He has about 4 or 5 horses here with me, right? You have one or 2 of the horses that have owned by 2 or 3 people. We just recently formed a syndicate, about 5 of us, and we bought a nice 2-year-old from Mr. Bovell, Set Royal Pacific Band, filly, you know. About 5 of us bought that. So that is about it where the syndicate is concerned.
In years gone by, of course, you had quite an extensive stable which you owned yourself, and probably some shares with partnerships. How do you feel about all this talk about syndication and partnerships being the way to go?
Well, from my experience with partnerships, you always find partners dropping out somewhere along the line, and you end up with a problem with the bills. And then again, too, you find that they never satisfy. One partner wants this jockey, one partner wants to send it in this race. So you always have a problem, you see. So although if you make an arrangement from in front, and where you put like the arrangement, they think they're trying to make with Old Blue Eyes. That is not bad, where 20 people or 30 people buy an interest into the horse, and they leave everything up to the trainer, which is how I feel races should really run. You see, if you're dissatisfied with your trainer, you change your trainer. You could discuss things with him, right? Because sometimes the owner would ring me Thursday morning, 8 o'clock, and say, put John Brown on the horse. You see, and I haven't seen the owner for 2 weeks. He does not even know how the horse is going. He hasn't consulted me. And if I don't put John Brown, he will move the horse and give it to the next trainer. You see, so this is the kind of thing you have to put up with in Trinidad. So most of the times you find from how I see that trainer comes like either an accountant or a financer. He's not a trainer of horses. You see, trainers don't get the respect that they deserve in Trinidad and Tobago. You see, a owner will just come just so, and he ain't say, well, look, Mosca, what do you think about this jockey? What do you think about that jockey? Is he suitable to the horse? I have that problem. That's a very serious problem. One of my classic horses right now is suffering with that problem. Saturday coming, it will be the 6 different jockey that will be riding him in 11 starts. You see, last week, the week before when he ran and the owner was dissatisfied, he booked a jockey just out of the blue, just like that. He didn't consult me. The horse has to take 3 kilos overweight on Saturday, which is unfair to the horse. It's unfair to me because I end up suffering in the long run. But the attitude is that we are paying the bill, so we could do what we want.
Of course, you know, the rising cost now, it makes it rather difficult for trainers, and just recently the jockeys have stated that the trainers have been giving them problems as regards riding fees. Is that really true?
I can't say so, because what happens is that they want to collect, as you arrive at races, they expect you have 1,000,001 things to do as a trainer, and they expect you to come straight and pay a jockey fee, which you have to see about so many different things. You have to make sure the stabling is correct. You have to see about getting tickets for owners. You have to see about your tacklings. There are 1,000,001 things to do. And the secretary of the Jockeys Association, who is collecting the funds, he's well aware of your situation in that you have 20 horses racing for the day and that you're not going anywhere. And they won't want to weigh out a horse because you have not paid a jockey fee in the first race, which don't make sense to me. And he knows very well, because he knows who he's dealing with, because he's been dealing with us for the last 7-8 months. He knows who trainer or who owner will give trouble to pay fees.
We'll continue with further racing news in a moment, so stay with us as we go to the break. A look at the jockey standings. Welcome back to the Stretch Run on Channels 9 and 14 as we go off to one of the many beautiful farms in our country. In this case, we're off to East Trinidad and the Rancho Caballero farm in Dabadie. And certainly this is quite an attractive and one of the top producing farms in Trinidad and Tobago. As we have a look at some of the broodmares and the foals just born over the last couple of weeks. The possible champions, indeed. Ana Lucia's mom, Gilt Edge, foaled this attractive bay filly by Creole sire beheaded 3 weeks ago. So this is a full sister to Ana Lucia, the runner-up in last year's derby to Cachito Mio. Gilt Edge is now in foal to Bonaldo, and in 11 months' time, the normal gestation period for horses, she'll hopefully be delivering a healthy foal. And with her previous offspring doing so well, this attractive foal and any others are confidently expected to perform with honour on, of course, the racetracks of Trinidad and Tobago. Well, a year ago, we were on spot to see Hilario's full brother take his first few steps into a new world. Well, he's changed quite a lot since then. Here he is as a yearling, growing and learning a lot about his environment. So full brother to Hilario, now a yearling. Another yearling that has come on quite nicely is Gilt Edge's yearling filly by the deceased Tom Rolfe stallion Farewell Trail. The evergreen sire American Honor is the sire of this 9-week-old chestnut filly out of the mare Dora T. The mare is now in foal to Beheaded. Do you remember Ramona, who finished in the place money, of course, to Monarchy's Derby victory back in '81? Well, she's seen here with her 9-week-old chestnut colt foal by Beheaded, a half-brother to Mission Bells, a Reaper and West Point, and Ramona safely in foal to the champion sire Bandsman. Well, the last mare we'll have a look at out at Rancho Caballero is Little Ballerina with her 4-week-old bay filly by American Honor. She's now carrying a full brother or sister to Swan Lake. She's in foal to Beheaded. And that's our look at some of the broodmares and foals and yearlings out at Rancho Caballero Farm. It brought me to mind, when looking at these horses, to ask Pearson Whitaker, the stud manager, if it was possible to detect class, that ability that could go on in years to come to be a classic winner. I guess you could say the look of the Eagles.
Yes, quite so. You know, there's something about a special type of foal that strikes you, you know, and as you watch him go along, you develop so much character. You say, well, this fellow will be a good one. You don't have to... He hasn't got to go on the track to not be a good horse. But it's something, you must be around horses all the time to understand this. But sometimes too, on the other hand, you find an awkward looking one who develops with time.
The ugly duckling kind of, yes.
Develops with time.
But do you remember some prominent ones, like Beheaded, for example, when he was a youngster?
Quite so. I always recall, before he was weaned, I went to the stable to try a clipping machine in the morning. I thought he was about 2 or 3 months old. And this clipping machine makes a hell of a lot of noise. And when I tried it out, while I was trying it out actually, he came and he sniffed it. And right then and I clipped him off. I remember Mr. Chester remarking to me, be careful he doesn't catch a cold. And I watched this, I said, you know what? You have to be a good horse. Just like that, I said, and he didn't let me down.
Yes.
Other than that, he wasn't much like as a yearling or anything like that, but, you know, his temperament, there was something remarkable about him.
Yes.
So he didn't surprise me at all. I remember I was showing it about 2 months old. I watched him an evening from right about here in the pasture there with his dam. And the way he looked, the way he carried himself galloping, I said, he's got to be a nice horse. He must be a nice horse. You know, his action alone and everything. So you can always tell if you're around them regularly enough. You can always pick out a good one.
Well, looking at this Gilt Edge filly, she carries herself so
yes.
alertly.
Oh, yes, very much so. She's a fine-looking little foal, and I think she's developed into, well, I expect her to develop into a nice foal, even without saying a nice horse.
Talking about another offspring, this time your own, Dale. I understand he's doing quite well. He's settled in Canada very, very well indeed.
Yes, Tony called me on Sunday evening, and he told me he was very elated. He won a race. Well, before that, he called me and told me he had placed in a couple other races, second and fourth, all the others. And as a father, I was very happy, you know, because I was wondering how he was getting on and so, you know.
Well, even
But
before
he
he
likes
left,
it,
yes, yeah.
He likes it there, and he thinks he'll do well in time, you know, because the stable is building, and some nice horses are coming in, and no matter he'll put his back into it, you know. If he fails, not to want to try him. And I think he'll succeed.
Well, that's the way to success. It's a long road, but you've got to try at it. Even before he left, he rode a winner for you. Was that the first time that he rode a winner for you?
No, the second time. He won with Tropical Force, but previously one with Tropical Sunset. Tropical Forest is full sister. Yeah.
Well, that must have been a special moment for you.
Oh yes. You know, you must feel proud, you know, you breed a horse and your son ride it for you.
Well,
yeah, it really was, you know.
I think even greater success is still ahead for Dale in Canada this year.
Well, and I hope so. Well, only a matter of time now before we see what happens, you know. Everything takes a little time, but things usually works out.
Well, it's good to hear that Dale Whitaker is doing so well in Canada, and we hope to receive some photographs, maybe some video of Dale in action up north. So that's good news indeed. Well, from the tranquility of Rancho Caballero Farm, we continue our mini-series on racing partnerships. And last week we learned quite a lot about the legal framework into forming a partnership, and tonight we continue on with part 2 of the series with attorney Wendell Kangaloo.
The formation of a partnership, I think, really is a way of beating the odds of getting a good horse, getting a money spinner. Because if we have, let's say we have 4 people owning a horse together, so each one person owns 1/4 of that horse. If you have the same 4 people owning 4 horses, then it will be the equivalent of each one owning 1 horse. Now, if you have the situation where one owner owns 1 horse, the odds are stacked really against him that that animal would become a winner. I think some years ago, probably about 2 years ago, you yourself did a survey of horses which were registered as 2-year-olds with the racing authority, and there were about 210 of them, let's say. And after 1 year, there were no more than, if there were 20 of them out of F class after 1 year, there were a lot. So that you're looking at more than 80% of the horses foaled in Trinidad and Tobago and registered with the racing authority becoming losers. So as I say, the formation of a syndicate is really trying to beat the odds in that you would have 4 horses instead of really one owner having 1 horse. You'd have 4 horses racing, hopefully, and that horse hopefully would be a money spinner and would be able to pay for the others in the syndicate to keep the syndicate going. So really, to say that syndication would lead to new owners coming into the game and to lead to it be in the future for owning horses in Trinidad, I don't think really that it necessarily would be so. The reason is that a lot of people, there are still a lot of people in Trinidad who feel that the easiest way of terminating a friendship or relationship is to ask their friend to own a horse with them. You know, that is, as soon as that is done, and there goes the friendship. So that these people prefer to own horses by themselves, and they can't be condemned for that, because there are problems involved in owning horses. When 4 or 5 people get together, everybody wants a different jockey, everybody wants a different trainer. Everybody would like to be there on the morning to see the horse work, and it's not, you know, it's not always possible. Everybody would like to have a say in the running of the horse. So the differences arise between them. The important thing is that the important thing for a syndicate is that you have a group of people who really understand each other and who are willing to have one voice. They nominate one voice, and they're willing to stand by that one voice, and whatever he decides, or whatever he and the trainer decide, well, they will go along with that. So I wouldn't really say that this is the way that the ownership of horses will go in the future. I can see that there will be some problems, and basically for the theory to work, we must be producing good horses. If we continue to produce the same 20 horses 10 years from now who get out of F class, then it means that the odds will not be beaten. The odds would still be stacked against you because there are only so many good horses that you can choose from, and invariably the farms know which are the horses that will develop into the future stars, because they see the horses from birth, and they can tell which ones are the ones that are more forward, which ones have bad habits, which are the ones that will come along. So that I don't think that the number of good horses is going to increase unless we have some sort of increased effort as far as the breeding farms and the stud farms go. And well, that really is a very expensive enterprise, you know.
So the bottom line
for advice to, let's say, 4 good buddies who would like to get together and purchase that potential star that they hope to see win the Royal Oak Derby, what advice would you give to them? Let's say there's just 4 of them together.
Well, my advice to them will be, do not go into it unless you can trust your partner. Only if you have the confidence in your partners should you really decide to do it, because there are going to be a lot of setbacks involved, and unless you have the patience to stand your ground and to make sure that you have the patience to know that at the end of the day you're still going to be there, you're still going to be part of the syndicate, notwithstanding all the problems, then don't go into it. But if you have such a good relationship with your 4 friends or your 3 friends, as the case may be, then by all means go ahead. I think though that that racing today needs people who are interested in the horses. They love horses and they love horse racing. They don't go into it from a monetary point of view, a pecuniary point of view, at the end of the day hoping to make a profit. If that is the motive for going into it, then you might as well forget it. But if you love horses, and if you love to go there on a Saturday and see your horse run, whether your horse comes first or last, everybody would like to win, of course. But you must have a love for horses and horse racing, and that is the way racing really developed originally in England. It was the nobility who owned horses, and that is why racing was always termed the sport of kings, because they could have afforded to go and see their horses run last. And they really love the thoroughbred, and they love going there, seeing the horses run, going at exercise morning, seeing the horse work out, discussing things with the trainer. You have to really like that. And if the dollar sign at the end of the year is your motive for owning a horse, then my advice to them would be to forget it.
Well, a major racing partnership with 28 members almost brought off the impossible in winning the Kentucky Derby. Their horse, Summer Squall, finished second to Unbridled. And wouldn't that have been an amazing sight? 28 people in the parade ring leading in their horse, but I think they had it all well allocated, who in fact would have handled the lead-in ceremony. But Summer Squall finished second to Unbridled, and in fact the 2 favourites were well beaten as Craig Perret brought Unbridled home by an easy 4.5 length margin.
And the leaders right now, along the inside, that's Real Cash holding on to the lead by a head. Mr. Frisky with Gary Stevens on the outside challenging. Those 2 match strides as they round the far turn. On the inside, it's Real Cash. On the outside, it's Mr. Frisky, 2.5 back. That's 36 Red, and Summer Squall is charging up on the outside. Summer Squall with a rush into third. Unbridled is fourth, and moving quickly on the extreme outside. Pleasant Cap behind a wall of horses is fifth as the field turns for home. Summer Squall towards the inside. Unbridled out in the middle of the racetrack. Charges up to challenge. Those 2 are heads apart. Unbridled on the outside, and Summer Squall at the rail. And down the stretch they come. Unbridled takes command. Summer Squall is second. It's 6 lengths farther back to Pleasant Tap. Along the inside, Mr. Frisky is out of it and through the stretch and to the wire. The 116th run for the Roses goes to Unbridled with jockey Craig Perret, winning it by 4 lengths.
When I seen Craig sort of move on the colt, and the colt picked up Summer Squall, I knew it was going to be a horse race at the head of the lane. I watched Pat Dave when he reached over left-handed and got into his colt. I know Pat. Pat's a good rider. He don't go to a stick until he's empty. And Craig had not even uncocked the stick yet, and that's why I said, Ms. Ginner, we're going to lead. We're going to win a Derby.
From the international horse racing scene, we switch back to Trinidad for the second day of the Trinidad Race Club Whitsun card. 8 races scheduled tomorrow, starting off at 1:15, with the day's feature being the A-class going 1,200 metres, the Southern Wholesale Stores Trophy Handicap.
And we certainly won't oppose the classy Smooth On in the sprint, making her second appearance after winning the Trintop Plate back at the Easter meeting. The big danger to the classy filly Smooth On could be Sunny Saxon, winner of the President's Easter Trophy, but it's Smooth On for us in the day's feature. Well, half an hour later, Krakatoa returns after his disappointing run in the Guineas as he takes on the Ian Lower class over 1720 metres. And again, like Smooth On, we won't go against the classy horse, and that's Krakatoa, here to defeat the E-class horses and erase any doubts about his Guineas failure. Overall selections for tomorrow: in race 3, Sky Angel; in race 4, Love of My Life; race 5, Indian General; and in race 8, Kenyatta.
And now on our trivia question. Last week we asked you to identify the horse and year the famous race in which Bill Shoemaker thought he had the Derby or the Derby won and eased up his mount. Well, that race was back in 1957, and Bill Shoemaker, coming up to what he thought was the line, stood up in the irons thinking that he had defeated Iron Liege. Well, he was riding Gallant Man back in 57, only to lose the race to Iron Liege and Bill Shoemaker. We received a number of winning letters this week and some very, very good responses indeed. Thank you very much. And the winning letter hails from Cascade from Errol Jack. And Errol guessed it right as Gallant Man in 57. Bill Shoemaker was the rider, of course, missing out on what could have been another Derby win. In fact, he had 4 Derby wins from Swaps to Ferdinand, and Gallant Man would have made it 5 overall for the man who partnered some 8,800 winners in his career as a rider, the winningest rider indeed. So many thanks for participating in our quiz. And this week's trivia question pertains to a horse that stands out at a stud farm in the country. We want you to identify the horse, and we're going to give you a clue. So we're not going to tell you too much about, well, at least it's going to be rather difficult without the silks of the rider, but take a look at the horse. He's a stallion standing out at stud here in the country, and the clue is that he was a useful sprinter that raced sparingly in the mid-80s. So that's our clue for this week's Send Your Answers to Video Associates. Once again, the clue, he was a useful sprinter that raced sparingly in the mid-80s. Identify the horse and send your answers to Video Associates by next Thursday, the date that we record the program. Well, before we go, just a quick response to a letter we received a couple of weeks ago from Robert Jaggers, who asked us if a tongue tie is an official piece of equipment. Well, I checked with the Racing Authority, and according to the rules of racing, the tongue tie is not an official bit of equipment like the blinkers, that sort of thing. And just some news on the Racing Authority. They're moving offices. In fact, they're now located at number 7, Queen's Park West. That's at the corner of Birmingham Avenue and the Savannah, so you can't miss it. They will be officially transacting business from Monday, and entries are due on Monday at their new address, 7 Queen's Park East at the corner of the Savannah, Queen's Park East and Birmingham Avenue. Well, that's all the time we've got on the program. Thank you very much for joining us on the stretch run, and hope you have good luck tomorrow at the races. Post time tomorrow for the second day of the TRC Whitsun meet will be 1:15. See you then, and join us again for the stretch run next Friday night at the same time.
Buster. As we look again, oh, look at this. Look at this.